Could be together today, and we have a special guest, Mary Seidler, with us. And we're starting a little late today. We had some technical problems, but we're still overcoming them, right, Zion? But anyway, Mary was from our church, and we sent her over to Poland. And I was just explaining that we'd call her a missionary, but there's no such thing as a missionary in the Bible because that's not a ministry. What you do is you send people on a mission who already have a ministry. And Mary had a ministry with us, particularly with children, but just been so many years that we just one day walked her into the little office lounge there. And what did we ask you?
Mary, how would you like to go to Poland?
I've been to Poland. Yes, I've been to Poland, and they were asking me help. We need
Mhm.
help. And I came back and, went just prayed and went through, and we said, Mary's can do anything. And she's been here all these years. And, you know, when you first came to us, you're one of those people like I wouldn't have thought that you would have grown to become that person to do what you do, but you
Mhm.
grew and became and just grabbed hold of this, and we're so excited that we could be a part of it.
Yeah.
I want to take back just for a second the church there. If I remember right, your pastor Marchin, which I would have probably had him on, and I will, but
Mhm.
this was such late notice. We were just talking yesterday. What should we do? Oh, we could get Mary, but I didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to give him a little more run at it. I didn't know his schedule or anything like that. But so I guess we were on Daystar. I guess in those days, and
Mm.
Pastor Marchin saw us on Daystar. Is that correct? I think.
Actually, Pastor Ula, the worship leader,
Oh yeah.
she saw World Revival Church was like, oh my God, these people, they worship like us. Crazy. And actually, to be honest, from a Polish perspective, it was crazy to have so much life, vibrancy, freedom in worship, and that these people they were really trying to worship like that. So there was a kindredness going
Uh-huh.
on. Immediately, she went to Pastor March. Is like, you all need to watch these guys there in Kansas City.
Yeah. And then I guess Pastor Marchin, then he came to Kansas City. Was that the next
Yes,
move?
yeah, that
Because
was
he
the
came
next thing.
here, and
Mhm.
from then we visited, and I and Kathy ended up going there
Mhm,
to
that's correct.
Poland. I think that was how it worked. And I'm trying to remember the first service. You're right. Even when we came there, it was a pretty good, intense worship. But after the worship, then getting the people to be intense with God, great worshipers, but now we got to be intense with God in our thinking, in our lifestyle, in our prayers, and just get the fire of God in us as people. I remember that. And that's kind of what I do, as you know. And of course, Pastor Marchin was already going that direction because he'd been here in Kansas City. And so
Mhm.
from there, we came more than one time. And as you know, then we were getting the fire of God into the congregation, which is the most exciting part. I wouldn't have sent you there if they didn't have something that we had, some kind of fire there. I didn't want to send you on the so-called mission field that there wasn't something there to take it to the city and to nations there in Europe. So
Yeah.
that's why we knew it was safe to send you over there and get you involved over there in Poland. And I think you went down south at first, and then you're now up in Warsaw. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I hear
Originally,
great things.
mhm.
I can't keep up with everything you're doing because you're doing so much. Hello, Heather. Hello, Lance. There's a couple of people coming on. Lance says hello, Pastor. Hello, Poland. So when we came on late, they kind of get lost. They got to come back and realize we're still on. Uh, and so, kind of, what just in a condensed version, what's your main thing that you do now in the
Right
church?
now right
Yeah,
now, I'm overseeing the youth ministry,
yeah.
and I'm also on the worship team as a worship leader and a songwriter, and then finally, I am traveling still throughout Poland when needed to different regions to strengthen and encourage, the churches there. Yeah.
So, what I'm going to ask two questions here, but in normal times, which Poland is not in normal times right now, neither
Mhm.
Ukraine nor Europe, but in normal times before, of course, I don't know if we had normal times the last 2 years with COVID. Let's go before that, even in normal times before COVID. what were the teenagers or youth like that you had to work with them? What were they like in Poland that you had to the challenge?
The challenge I would say is that a lot of these kids in Poland, they're mainly coming from a Catholic background. And all of them go through this Catholic process of, their first communion and things like that. So it's just a spirit of religion or a cycle of religion. And the people that are really hungry for God, they're not really able to make that connection unless they do something crazy, and if they do, for example, hook up with a Protestant church like this, um, it's really persecuted at home because Catholicism and being Polish are looked at as the same thing. Okay. So we do have people in our church that were heavily persecuted by their own family members as youth,
Right.
right? To be able to come and to experience God. I think that is definitely changing um, later on now. But especially when I first got here, that's what I was seeing. So that, you know, they're having to kind of overcome this. They're open. They're definitely open to the Spirit of God. They're kind of shocked, just like
Right.
anybody would be when they come in and they're like, how come all these people are raising their hands, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in general, once they figure out that it's safe and it's correct and they're receiving from God, then, their hearts are very, very open. I just led my first youth camp last year in the middle of the pandemic. It was during summertime, so restrictions were eased. It was safe. We didn't really have any issues. We had zero issues actually with COVID. And I would suggest to you that half of the people that came to this camp were kids who had never really experienced the power and the presence of God. And luckily, we had done such a good job, in my opinion, parents and leaders, investing into the kids in our own church here in Warsaw. I was expecting actually that we are going to be having to minister to them and to the external kids. But I was shocked to see our kids rise up, and they were so strong. And they were really the force, in my opinion, that was opening up the door for other kids who are really scared and have never raised hands or anything to say, well, if these guys are doing it, then it can't be so bad, right? And I was so pleased to see these kids that were just off the street practically being filled with the Holy Spirit, being touched, crying, responding. I have a testimony very quick. This girl, she was from Tarnów, and she was one of those girls off the street. She was invited by a friend, and she had bright orange hair and very super skinny and just really scared and withdrawn. And I would never, ever force her to come get prayer. But on the third night we were there, I saw that like she just needed a little encouragement. So I called her up, and she trusted me, and she allowed me to pray for her. And like her face changed. Like there was a glow on her face. And she began to just every day began to open up. I don't know what trauma or what has happened to her in her life. It's none of my business. But what is my business is that she was not the same person when she went back to Tarnów than when she came to be with our camp. So I am really proud of our youth that they are learning about the foundations and principles of the Spirit of God and revival and the Word, and they're making it their own as Polish youth. And they're trying to reach out to their friends, and they want to be in church. They want to be a part of this.
Of course, one of the reasons we have you on is because everybody here wants to know what's going on there and the mindset. Uh, we listen to the news part way. A lot of people don't trust the news here. Some do, some don't. Uh, and but I think they're curious to know lifestyle. Like for instance, since the war in Ukraine, you can help us with this. So you're in Warsaw, the big city, beautiful city. Um, if I didn't know there was a war in Ukraine and I showed
Mhm.
up at Warsaw, would I know anything's different since I've been there before? Does it pretty much look like life just is going on?
I would say that as far as life going on, there is a stability and a safety and a normalcy that you would see in any major city. It would be a stark contrast to what you would see in like Kiev or some of the cities that have been leveled and bombed. So
Yeah.
for Ukrainians that are making their way into Poland, but making their way to transit through Warsaw, it is a huge relief to have this kind of normalcy,
And of
right? We
course,
don't,
Warsaw is not a border city. It might have been
no.
different if you were right. It's some distance, away. So different age groups. Let's well, let's start with the teenagers and young adults. They
Mhm.
know what's going on in Ukraine. Is it too early to tell? How are they processing this? Are they nervous? Do they think, oh, everything's going to be okay? This is going to pass, or we're really worried? We'll start with the young adults, or maybe it's a whole everybody's thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
How how
No,
do, how are they processing this
I think it's
emotionally?
let's stick with the youth. I think that's really good that you brought that up. I think for the youth and for the young adults here in Poland that that are kind of living this on this side of the border, you have to understand, and I know that you do. Let's say I hope that the audience that's watching needs to understand that ever since the war ended, World War II, there has been such a stigma put into the next generations to never forget. And Pastor Steve and Kathy know this because they've been to Warsaw many times, that you start getting into the heart of the city and everywhere are reminders of the war.
Yeah,
Everywhere. There are monuments everywhere that say at this place these people were taken to Siberia. In this place this happened. 1939. That is exactly what you see before you even get into the city center.
yeah,
So this is really like thumbprinted into this generation, that they know about the uprising, they know about their history, and they are youth who are ready to take action, and they are not afraid whatsoever. For them, this is like, okay, let's do what we have to do. And I do see youth wanting, and young adults, definitely involved in helping other Ukrainians as they're coming in as volunteers to help pass out food in the relocation centers. So we do not have an atmosphere of fear. We have an atmosphere of giving and being proactive and acting upon this thing that's been imparted into them, so to speak, of I don't forget. And this is how I'm showing that I don't forget, is I'm doing something. I'm participating like this, but yet still living a normal Polish life. They're going to school. They have that stability, right?
yeah.
We don't have that threat of war right now in Poland or in Warsaw, which is really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was there, and I think maybe that represents all ages, maybe, because when I was there, there is something different about the Polish people, which is kind of familiar with the Ukrainians too. But since Poland's been a nation since 1989, and now they have their independence, their own nation, there is something different about them. But
Mhm.
when I remember walking the streets and some of the malls and things like that, you wouldn't know there's any difference. They look just like our kids here. They got their jeans on, they wear their jeans, and they dress the same way as our kids
Wow.
here, and they goof around and act the same way at the mall as our kids here. You wouldn't think anything, but I do think there's a difference because of the upbringing coming out of the Soviet Union. And where here, they did a survey here, and 50% of the kids of the military age, 18 to 22, 23, whatever they did, 50% of them said they wouldn't go to war and fight for America. 50%. Now, that might change if a real threat came and they
Yeah.
realize they're going to lose and their family. That could change, but that's
Yeah.
where the mind is now. Like, it's not worth fighting for. I don't think you're going to find that at all in Poland. That's not that they're tough people, and they would fight just like Ukrainians. And right now, the Ukrainians and the Polish people are in the news a lot too. It's
Yeah.
very inspirational, and it's inspiring. The Polish people coming to the border, helping, taking the refugees in, and the Ukrainian people of all ages. I really see that the inspiration of the Polish people and the Ukrainians could turn our generation, even those 50%, to start thinking differently about country, patriotism, fighting for what's right, being a courageous person, standing up for things. So I'm hoping that all in all, with as many bad things that are going on, it could spark a new mindset in America among young people, because it is very inspiring to watch and to hear and to know, and the sacrifice that the Polish people are doing when they wouldn't have to do it, of helping the Ukrainians. Of course,
Mhm.
uh, one thing, Poland is a NATO nation, so they do have a little bit of more safety than the Ukrainians, but still. One last question. I guess I don't have to rush, but well, I do have another appointment. But but one last question that I'm very curious about. Either your opinion, Pastor Marchin's opinion, or a general opinion. What well, it's speculation. Out of speculation, what's the general feel of you, Marchin, or the church, or whatever? What might happen in the future? Where uh, is Putin going to give up? Is it going to end? Are the Ukrainians going to win? Is it going to escalate? Is Putin going to, we're on the edge because this could really go big? Is I'm here. There's talk back and forth. They're
Right.
guessing all the time. Is there a general idea like, hey, you know what, this could really go, or they're going to win and this is going to stop? Or, I don't know. What's your
Mhm.
thought?
Well, I will tell you this, is that we are watching obviously what's happening. We're experiencing it alongside of our Ukrainian brethren. And we see how President Zelensky and the Ukrainians are taking their stand as a smaller nation to a very larger nation, and they're not backing down.
Mhm.
And I think that that says a lot. And I feel that there's a victory in the air, but the situation is very unpredictable.
Yeah.
I just want to say that this is not just like it's going to go on this course. I can't really say Putin's going to do this or Putin's going to. It's just very unpredictable. But there are some things that are repeating themselves. So I question all these Holocaust or whatever memorials that we've spent 70 years on saying, never let this happen again, never let this happen again. Well, it is happening again. It
Yep.
is very much happening again, very uncannily, I might add. So it's unpredictable. But like I said, I think in general, we feel a sense of victory. We have that sense of fight and overcoming. But I would suggest to you that it is unpredictable.
Yep. And I think you made a great point of it is unpredictable, but if we follow the patterns of times before,
Mhm.
it is very close to what was taking place in the late 1930s of, well, your history enough of how
Yeah,
that took place from nation to nation. It does follow that pattern, but will it go that way after this? Nobody knows, right?
right.
Well, we love the Polish people. I love the church. And, well, of course, we love you. You know that. And, but to tell Pastor Marchin how much I love him, I always refer to him as my son in the Lord. I hope he knows that. From when I first met him, I felt he was different. He's just different than most people I meet in the ministry and in churches. I like his spirit, and I hope to, I hope we can settle this down enough that we'll get to see him, or they can come here,
Yeah,
uh, and we can see one another before too long.
yeah,
Will you relay that to him?
absolutely.
My love to them and Ula and all of them, everybody there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thanks for coming on. You look healthy and well.
Yeah.
You
Thank
know,
you very much for the invitation, Pastor
yeah,
Steve. This is a
yeah.
huge honor. Thank you very
Well,
much.
we're very proud of you. You've gone far and beyond the first mile. We never thought you'd go this. We never thought you'd go this far and this big. We never dreamed it, but you have. You've gone far beyond what we could think and imagine, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Stay in touch with us. Jesus bless Poland, bless Mary. Give them the
Yes.
victory and this church and Pastor Marchin. May he rise up as a leader of revival in the nation of Poland with the fire of God in the name of Jesus.
Right.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
till next time then. All right. Bye-bye.